Today I'm going to be creating with a Wonderful Match designer series paper. Now the layout that I'm going to do is not soccer themed, and you can see that this has a soccer theme to it, but it is really quite a versatile set. And so I'm going to be using this, and it is great for a lot of things, but especially sports themes are very easy to do with this. Now I love the numbers that are on the back of this paper, but I've decided to go a different direction with this paper, and I'm going to cut out some of this paper because I want to save what I can, and I don't need to use the whole sheet of designer series paper for the background. I'm actually going to make this a baseball theme, and so I'm cutting like an L out of both pieces of this striped paper, but I definitely want to save that backside that has the numbers because I think I can use it later on in some other sports layouts. I'm doing a scrapbook currently for my nephew, and so I want to make sure that I save some of those numbers that I can use later. So I'm going to just use the background paper that I have will be completely covered up. In fact, I think it's some old cardstock from Close to My Heart. So it really is irrelevant what you use for the base. And I'm going to put these two like L shapes down for my background. And then there's this great like diagonal crisscross lines, like almost like a plaid, but it goes at a diagonal that I'm going to use. Okay, so I'm going to cut both sheets of that plaid, and the part on the left-hand side of the page will be just a small part, and then it will look like it's going straight across to the right-hand side of the page. And I want to make sure the lines match up on the two layouts so it looks very continuous across. And then I have this black paper that has those little tiny hash marks. I'm going to use a big chunk of that on the left and then a skinnier chunk of that on the right. And that paper is actually from the Modern Christmas Specialty DSP. You saw those gold foil Christmas bulbs and stuff on the back. So I just grabbed that because it worked very nicely with this pack. And I really like that those stripes that were like a plaid. I liked that on here because I'm using this for a baseball layout. And so since the plaids go at a diagonal, it kind of looks like diamonds, and you have, you know, the baseball diamond. So I thought that was a nice play on how I could use it for this layout. So, and I will use another little strip of that later on with my title block as well. And so now I'm going to bring in these pictures. I have pictures of my nephew at all different ages with a bat and ball, or playing Little League Baseball, or going to a Tin Caps game in Fort Wayne. And so I'm just putting all of these together, and I will put it on the layout, and I think it'll work pretty good. I used the photo mats that we have as my matting. So the photo placeholders, I just take my 4x6 picture, trim it down to 3 1/4 by 5 1/4, and then I'll use that 4x6 photo placeholder as a mat behind my photo. I have found that this makes it go very quick, and it makes it very efficient for me to get my scrapbooking completed. So we'll put all of these down. I do have an issue with some of these pictures because I don't have all of the pictures going the direction that I need them to go, but ultimately I'm going to probably break all the rules when it comes to pictures. You'll see that later on. Okay, so they have this great cutout sheet for the Wonderful Match DSP, and I decided to cut a bunch of those out and make them into some tags. And I did use the Greetings of the Season dies to cut these down into tags, and they don't have to be tags, even the ones that are shaped like tags, they don't have to be the exact same shape as what they show. So you can see that I cut these down into different shaped tags as long as my dies would fit within the set. And then I also have a wonderful match. I have both the, I guess it's called match day, both the stamps and the die cuts. These coordinate wonderfully with everything, and so there are some things on here that I think I want. That jersey works great for any sport, so I'm going to stamp that off and use that, and I will cut it out with the die as well. So my objective here is to create some little clusters, and I'm going to use some of these tags as like the base for my little cluster areas. So I have that little jersey that will work great on the cluster, and I will bring in some other elements to sprinkle around on these clusters as well. So I have a circle that I've punched out, and I think on my other cluster I want to do like a baseball. So I just brought in a marker. It was one of my Stampin' Rights that is retired now, and I just drew some lines and some little hash marks, and I'm making a little baseball. I want it to look like it has, you know, like all the little stitching, and I will use this on one of my other little tag clusters. And I think that'll make a nice little element. You don't have to have things that are super complicated, but I think that will just, you know, really help with the whole baseball vibe that I have going on. So now I have the jersey on the one tag, I have the baseball on the other tag. I've got some twine that I have used to tie it up. It was actually some of the baker's twine and the Natural Tones linen thread. And now I'm going to bring in the Wonderful Stars puffy stickers. These are just all in black and white. I'm sure the white ones can be colored on so that you can make it a customized color. I'm going to put one in the middle of that trophy on the one tag, and that's all I'm doing to that one since it has a trophy printed on it. And then I'm going to use the puffy stars, both the small and large ones, on the other tags so that I can use those as my extra little sprinkle elements on those clusters. And now I need a title. So I pulled out an old sticker sheet from Close to My Heart, and a lot of these just have a lot of great titles, and I'm like, why not get those out and use those for my scrapbook pages, because I am on a time crunch. I'm trying to get, it'll probably be 2 full scrapbooks once I'm finished for my nephew's graduation party. And so I had this one and it said good times, and I thought that is absolutely perfect. But once I pulled off that word good, I kind of thought it got lost over the busyness of the papers, and so I decided I would bring back in some of that crisscross plaid paper, and I would use that behind the sticker that says good for the background. So I just kind of trimmed down a little bit of the piece. I didn't use any exact measurements. I just kind of eyeballed it and figured out what would set there, and that works pretty good, but I think I want just a little bit of color to it. So I got my blending brush and some ink, and I chose Garden Green. I think the greens go better in person than what it looks like on camera actually, but I used a little bit of that and just did a little bit of shading and just to add a little something behind and to make that title kind of pop out, and I think that will work just fine. So I will put that down, I will layer on the word good, and then I will add just a few more of those Wonderful Stars puffy stickers to accent around that title as well. And now I need to make sure I adhere the tag, and you are going to see where I'm breaking all the rules for the pictures. So I have pictures that need to layer on top. I know which pictures I want on the very top of the layout, but my pictures don't all go the right way. And the 4x6 that was in portrait orientation, I did not want to cut down. So I just decided, you know what? I'm putting this flip flap over top. It's all right that it doesn't go the same direction. It just adds a little bit more visual interest. And so I'm going to put those on top, and you see that the other facing page has a 4x4 flip flap that goes over a 4x6, and that's just fine. You don't have to have the exact size over all of the time. I do go back and add some journaling, and here is your final look. I hope you've enjoyed this sports layout.
Like, comment, share, and subscribe for more crafty inspiration.